How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today's video teaches you how to spot opponents in World of Tanks console effectively. So of course, lots of you know how to actually spot opponents within the game, but some of you may not actually know the key methods to increase the amount of spotting damage you do in every single tank class that you play. Some of you think that it's just for light tanks, and in fact, for the most part, yes, you can use spotting to your advantage in light tanks, but often you can make the best use of spotting and to be able to have the best games in some tanks that you wouldn't expect necessarily straight away. Things like the M56 Scorpion here can be used really effectively. Things like the E25, of course. The German tank destroyer at tier 7 can be used super effectively, actually, with its really great concealment and the ability to outspot opponents as well. So we're going to go into everything you need to know about actually spotting opponents, and I guess the first thing that you need to do is make sure that your tank has the maximum kind of equipment that you'll need in order to spot opponents effectively. Now, first things first, we're using the LT432. I think it's a good kind of choice to go with as a light tank. This is a tier 8 Russian light tank. But yeah, basically what you want in every single tank that you're trying to spot in is, of course, advanced optics. This boosts up the view range of your tank by 10%. Now, say you come up in an engagement with the exact same tank at the exact same distance, but you have the 10% increase to from coated optics. What that basically means is you can be 10% closer or further away from the opponent before they spot you. So you'll be able to outspot your opponent 10% further than they'd be able to spot you. So say if you were, 100 meters away and your base view range was 100 meters. Say if the person was 110 meters away, they wouldn't be able to spot you because they've only got 100 meters vision, and then you have 110 meters vision, so you'd be able to spot them. That's kind of how it works in game. Of course, there's a few different things that kind of change that way and how it actually works, and that's because of the still concealment and the concealment factor of your vehicle. And of course we did a guide on camo factor and how you can use camouflage effectively within World of Tanks that I will link at the end of this video. So if you want to check out the concealment and camo, then you can do that at the end. But this one is based around vision and being able to spot opponents effectively. Now, first things first, of course, having your things like in the enhanced combat rations will obviously increase your view range by a small proportion. Well, I say small proportion, but it's 10%, which is quite nice passively. And then, of course, if you activate it, it can boost up your vision range, which we'll try and highlight in the games that we're going to play in just a second. We'll do live gameplay. Of course, they might not be the best games for spotting. I could end up on a town map, but if I do end up on a town map, I'll try and avoid actually commentating over that. And we'll get an actual decent map to begin with. But yeah, there we go. That's how you can boost up your vision. Of course, if you want to maximize spotting, then you will put on advanced concealment. This reduces the detectability of your tank, and so you'll be able to not get detected as easily from the enemies, but be able to detect enemies from further away using your advanced optics. So that's kind of how it works. In terms of the commander of the vehicle, you can go to that in the actual garage now, and the skills you want to be putting on your vehicle are the camo ones and the view range ones. Well, now, what do I mean by that? Well, of course, when you start playing World of Tanks, many people choose the wrong kind of skills for their commander, and this is going to hopefully kind of iron out some of those kinks. The first one being in camo expertise. Now, this is crucial for being able to outspot opponents. That just increases your camo factor by 10%, so it will make it 10% harder for enemies to basically spot you from your camo factor, basically. Additionally, I put muffled shot. This allows me to shoot on the move, or not on the move, but in a bush, and that basically decreases the effect of firing on your camo factor. So what people don't know is when you fire, and then what will happen is your view range or your detectability range will actually increase, and then what happens is the opponents will be able to spot you easier after you fire. So that doesn't always happen, depending on the tank that you're in. Some tanks don't kind of have that negative, but this tank definitely does. And so what you want to do is reduce the amount of that firing will have on your camo factor, which means you can get some shots in occasionally on people that you'll be coming up against. Another thing you could put on is obviously Green Thumb, and that will increase your vehicle's camo factor when in foliage, and that basically just reduces your detectability when you are in a bush. The best one obviously to go with first is the Camo Expertise, because that just increases your vehicle's camo factor by 10%, and then of course the one will only increase your camo factor when you're in a bush, so of course get the one that means the most first, and then you can always add this one on if you want to. Now, of course, if you are going to be spotting, you need Sixth Sense, because it's essential to know when you outspot opponents and when you should crest a ridge, when you shouldn't crest a ridge, when you're spotted. Of course, it's massive for light tanks, medium tanks, and tank destroyers. It's really, really crucial crew skill, and it's the first one I always put on all of my tanks if I'm training something up. And then finally, as your kind of other spotting one, is situational awareness, which just increases that maximum view range that we talked about earlier by 6%, and that allows you to outspot opponents once again. And then if you really want to kind of min-max the tank, you can also put on Mark Target, which enables you to get 3-second increase to the duration of time a targeted enemy is like basically detected for. So if you spot an enemy, you'll basically be able to actually spot them for 3 seconds longer than the current time in the game. So that's really, really crucial for just lighting them up for your team and getting some more spotting damage within the game. So if you really want to min-max your tank and not have any of the other benefits like the snapshot, steady aim, and the run and gun, etc., then those are the kind of things that you want to be looking at. Now, I think it's time to get into some gameplay, and we will join you when we get there. So, first game on, we are on Sunset Coast. This is a pretty okay map, I guess, to spot in. Not necessarily the best one, but one that you can definitely have some fantastic games on if you play it right. And of course, that is down to me whether we're going to be able to have these fantastic games within this. But hopefully it will be able to showcase some aspects of how you can basically outspot your opponents to have better games and just be able to, you know, farm damage yourself, even if some of your teammates aren't able to support you fully. Team seems to be camping in the base for some reason. Hopefully they do actually move over to the left-hand side to be able to give me some assistance damage. But what we will do is just cover a few of the basics whilst we're waiting for the opponents to actually push up into some sort of position. Now, you'll see in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the big circle in kind of like this red kind of position, and what that basically indicates is kind of the minimum kind of range at which you can basically spot opponents, or the maximum I should say. And then the white dashed line, that tells you how much you can actually spot opponents, or without them actually spotting you. So if I am beyond that, or basically if the opponent isn't within the white dash line, it's going to be very hard for them to actually outspot me. Whereas if they are within my blue dashed line, then it's much easier for me to be able to spot them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pop into this bush. You'll see that I've actually activated my enhanced combat rations. That's basically so I can have better view range overall, and so I can outspot anyone that might be pushing into some positions. So what you see is I probably am the one that just spotted that guy. Unfortunately, we get spotted there. So what we're going to do is just pull into this little area here, wait for us to go undetected, and then hopefully we'll be able to, without getting pushed out by this T-34-85M, we'll be able to outspot the opponents that we're coming up against in just a second. So it's an okay game so far. You know, we've had an alright game. What we are going to do now is just try and basically get as much damage and spotting damage at the same time. So, of course, that's kind of difficult, not necessarily the easiest task. And so what we are going to do is just keep pushing out damage as and when possible. You see that we actually bounced a shot, which is very uncharacteristic of a light tank, but okay. Now we've gone undetected now, so that's a decent result. Going to pop one into the tracks of the hammer, and this is the sort of gameplay you want to be using in your tanks, like this tank that we've got right now. Just popping in shots, dealing around, moving around, remaining undetected, changing the angle of approach, just basically being an absolute, like, troll, basically. So just putting out damage as and when possible. Obviously, it's important that you do use your spotting, and we're going to pop our binocs here to be able to outspot the T-34 that was over this way. Unfortunately, we don't, which is actually really annoying. A little bit of a problem, but there you go. He's need to get rid of him, but we keep bouncing, which is really, really annoying. Maybe I should have aimed a little bit better, but okay. I'm gonna pop one into him, and now it is time to kind of reassess the situation. We're gonna move down, I think. So we've taken him out because we knew that he was going to be there. Of course, he wasn't actually spotted at the time that we hit him, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter because we knew he was there. Of course, he's probably not going to have moved from that spot, and now it is time to actually take advantage of the best time for when you can actually outspot your opponents, and that is at the end of the game. The best time to outspot your opponents and take advantage of view range is when there aren't tons and tons of tanks that can possibly and be random locations across the map, which can end up in you getting taken out from positions that you didn't necessarily know were going to be a problem. Now, first things first, get rid of this Scorpion, I think, because he has that horrible gun that can take us out. Hopefully we one-shot him here, which we do, which means that we can actually move on quite nicely and hopefully get some more damage. Now, we missed the Nomad, which is a bit of a problem, but what we can do now is we do know that there's probably someone over to the right. We're going to try and put one into him. We're going to pop our little... what we will do is we can avoid this guy. We're going to try and ram this guy, which we do successfully. He's taken out, which is great. Pop one into the Cromwell, hopefully. And now it's time to go and help out our heavy tank, hopefully. Right, so we're going to put this guy in between us and the opponents, which is ideal, because now what we have is a 1 versus 4 situation, which is a little bit bad. We're bouncing off of that guy, which is an absolute nightmare. That's perfect. I'm going to try and dupe our way. Might get taken out by the Sentinel, but if we do, it's not the worst problem. We do, however, need to go after the guy in the cap circle, which we may not be able to get to, but of course that's not the worst thing in the world. But we did try and get as much damage as possible, and I should have probably gone a little bit earlier to be able to get back to the cap circle, but it's okay. We had an okay game, 4,531 damage, not much more I could have done in that one. But you'll see what you can do. I mean, it's not the best game to be able to spot on because we didn't really have that much support over on that side, but it did kind of showcase a little bit. So we will pop into the next game, and hopefully that one will be a better one to be able to showcase exactly what spotting can actually do in a tank like this. Of course, it is down to the game and what map we get, and of course this one is another one that isn't particularly amazing for spotting, but I will give it a go, and hopefully my methodology or my thinking can actually help you to know when the best places are to spot, and hopefully some good positions that maybe you can take advantage of. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you actually think of the different maps and which are the best ones to kind of use and how you can use and take advantage of spotting. Of course, it's kind of hard for me to try and teach you guys, I guess, considering I've had a lot of experience and I kind of had to learn for myself. It's very hard to give you sound advice that will work every single time, but what I am trying to do is just give you the mentality to be able to know exactly how to use your spotting damage. And of course, it isn't one of those things that you can just guarantee every game. You can't guarantee thousands of spotting damage every game because it does rely on your teammates. But what you can do is just optimize your setup to be able to, you know, consistently have the ability to maybe outspot some more opponents than you were previously. And hopefully this guide can basically help you with that. Whether or not that is the case, of course, you'll have to let me know whether you're going to whether you find these videos even helpful, because for the most part, I don't really know unless you guys tell me. And so if you want to see any more videos on how the various different ways that you can basically have better games and just know more, then of course let me know. And what we'll try and do is just get you some decent kind of footage here of how you can basically take advantage of it and everything like that. So, back at 25 TAP, we've been absolutely stumped now, which is really annoying. But okay, we'll deal with it. Put one more into him. We don't want to crash into him because that would be a big problem. But what we are doing now is we've taken control of the middle of the map, which is a key position on Overlord for us to be able to take. What we are going to do now is just crest the ridgeline. Now this is where you can take advantage of your view range. Have to be a little careful of maybe over cresting the ridge lines that you're going to be going up, but you can see what we did do is we just spotted a couple of enemies, or at least respotted a few enemies that you'll be able to kind of use to your advantage. Of course, let me know whether or not, you know, you use the same builds, use the same equipment build, and then you can kind of give me your advice as well, because obviously I am just one player. Yes, I've had quite a bit of experience on World of Tanks console, but maybe or maybe not, you know, there are better builds for you to be able to take advantage of, but we're trying with regards to kind of teaching players some of the things that you need to be thinking about when you play in your tanks. We're going to crest this ridgeline again. We'll pop our enhanced combat rations to be able to boost up the view ranges to the maximum as possible, and then give our teammates at least an opportunity. What I do need to kind of highlight though is you need to make sure that you are a fairly decent speed when you crest a ridgeline. There's no point in cresting a ridgeline if you're going at like 20 kilometers an hour, because all that does is enable the opponents to basically get an easier shot on you than they would have before. And what you can also do is you can actually just proximity detect opponents. So say if I wanted to proxy this AMX-30, which we've just done, well, we can do quite easily, but unfortunately the Progetto's sat at the back, and he manages to pick us off, which is annoying. Not a brilliant game, but yet again, just one that kind of highlights a little bit of what you can do with spotting. Of course, I'm not a god player. I can't do thousands and thousands of spotting every single game, but what I do hope is that these kind of showcased some areas of the game. I think I went through, you know, the ability to crest ridgelines. That's kind of what you want to be doing. Of course, I over crested that ridgeline, went a bit too high up when I could have just crested a little shorter and been just spotted the opponents, and he would have had a much harder shot for him to actually hit us there. And then, of course, the ability to use bushes to be able to out-detect opponents at the late half of the game. So yeah, hopefully these two games kind of showed you a little bit how you can play light tanks and how you can actually use spotting damage to increase your win rate overall. And I hope that that was a great video for you guys. Of course, I will do more video guides on all of this sort of stuff, the mechanics in World of Tanks console, such as spotting and all of the various different camouflage, stuff like that. I will do more guides and more content to kind of give you an overview of how you can get better, hopefully, within the game, and angling and stuff like that, and just basically being able to use your armor more effectively. Those guides will all be coming out fairly soon, and hopefully you guys will like them and take advantage of them to have some better games overall. Thanks very much for watching. Thank you all to all of the channel members for supporting the channel a little bit further, other than just watching, which is all I ask of anyone. Really do appreciate all of the support that's been coming on the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.